go.
No way. Better than most.
It was not the perfect swing that made Seve Ballesteros dangerous, it was the impossible one. Royal Lytham 1979, final round. His ball lands in a car park, most would panic. Seve grabbed a 9-iron and stuck it close. That shot did not just win the Open, it announced he played a different game. But how did a barefoot kid from Pedreña, swinging a hacked 3-iron on the beach, become Europe's most electrifying golfer and a nightmare to coach?
We've nicknamed this the legend of Pedreña. Pedreña being Seve's home village, and we play Real Pedreña.
He was not supposed to make it, not from there. Pedreña was quiet, poor and forgotten, just a smudge on the coast of Cantabria. No one talked about dreams there. You worked, you carried bags, you kept your head down, but even as a boy, Seve Ballesteros walked like he knew something no one else did. He didn't act like a caddy's son, he acted like he owned the fairway. The problem? He wasn't allowed on it. His classroom was on the beach, his only teacher, a worn-down 3-iron. He used it for everything: driving, chipping, bunker shots, recovery plays from behind driftwood and rock. Seve left school at 14 with barely more than a basic education, but his eyes were sharp, his imagination sharper. That single club became a sword in the hands of a boy who had nothing, but somehow saw everything. Still, he wasn't entirely in the dark. His older brother Manuel, a professional golfer, gave Seve his first glimpse into the real world of golf. Seve caddied for him whenever he could, studying his swing, stealing glances at how players read greens, and memorizing the rhythm of tournament days. Another brother, Baldomero, repaired clubs. Vicente caddied too. Golf ran through the Ballesteros bloodline, but Seve was different. He wasn't content watching, he was learning how to take the crown. He broke the rules constantly, snuck onto the local course, practiced in the dark, played imaginary matches in his mind against giants. No technique, no textbooks, just feel. That is what separated him. That is what haunted the players who later tried to beat him. He wasn't a product of golf's system, he was something else. So here is the question. What happens when the game you have only seen through a caddy's eyes, the game that shuts you out, looks past you, treats you like a shadow, suddenly has to face you head on? And not just face you, Chase, you.
All day, it was Seve's chip at the 18th which characterized his imagination and skill, and announced his arrival on the world stage. Another golden moment from the Open.
The 18th hole at Royal Birkdale 1976 wasn't supposed to matter. It was a finishing stretch for seasoned pros, a place to sign scorecards and slip into the clubhouse. But then came Seve Ballesteros, 19 years old, Spanish, wide-eyed and fearless. He had no translator, barely any English, and even less respect for playing safe. His final round chip didn't just flirt with the hole, it danced into it. A birdie, a roar. He didn't win that day, Johnny Miller did, but something bigger happened. The golf world turned. It saw a kid who didn't look polished or perfect, but looked different. In that one shot, golf had found its spark, a new kind of electricity. By 1979, Seve wasn't just turning heads, he was ripping pages out of the playbook. At Royal Lytham, in the heat of the Open Championship, he duck-hooked a drive into a temporary car park. Most players would have taken a drop. Seve took a chance. He pulled a wedge, brushed the dust off his shoes, and stuck his approach near the pin. The gallery screamed. The old guard grimaced, but Seve didn't care. He won the Open at 22, the youngest champion of the 20th century, and did it his way. Wherever the ball went, Seve followed with belief. He didn't need fairways, just space. And then came Augusta, 1980. The Masters had never crowned a European before. Southern skies whispered tradition, and green jacket etiquette ruled this domain. But Seve blew it open. He led by 7, took risks no one else dared. He walked with a swagger and struck with lightning. By Sunday, he was slipping on the green jacket, not as a guest, but as a disruptor. The Americans admired him, the Europeans adored him, but not everyone clapped. because for every ovation, there was a backlash. The PGA Tour wasn't thrilled about a maverick from Spain stealing the spotlight. In 1980, they limited how many US events non-members could play. Seve saw it for what it was, a ban. They called it policy. He called it isolation. No Players' Championship, no invitation, no apologies. Seve didn't bow. He blasted back, accusing the PGA Tour of closing its doors to the world. While America tightened its circle, Seve expanded his. He dominated across continents, from Valderrama to Wentworth, Japan to Ireland. He won the Masters again in 1983, racked up 5 majors, took 50 European Tour titles. He didn't need permission from the PGA, he had the people, he had magic, he had his continent behind him. Then came Nick Faldo. If Seve was flamenco, Faldo was architecture. Seve played from instinct, Faldo from calculation. They barely exchanged words, but every Sunday pairing felt like a chess match with drivers. It wasn't personal, it was primal. 2 champions in total contrast, one thrilling, one relentless. Golf fans picked sides. The rivalry lit up leaderboards for years.
And he sort of was shaking me and saying things. I didn't realize, I had to ask later what he said. But he said to me, you know, you are a great champion. I mean, for me, God, that was one of the greatest moments of my career.
But in 1995, something unexpected happened. Faldo had just won the Open at St. Andrews. Seve, older and fading, walked over. No cameras flashing, no grand gestures, just a quiet moment. "You are a great champion," Seve said. Faldo, known for his steel, later called it one of the greatest honors of his life because only Seve could understand the weight, the loneliness of carrying an entire continent's expectations for so long. By then, the toll was visible. Seve's swing, forged on beaches with tree branches and imagination, had punished his back beyond repair. The pain grew, the fire dulled, but he kept going. One final major in 1988, and then the slow fade. 2006 at the Open, Seve walked the course one last time. No roars, no birdie streaks, just a man in sunglasses, body stiff, soul defiant. The crowd didn't cheer for the score, they stood because they knew they'd never see another like him, not in this lifetime. So how do you measure greatness? Is it in trophies, or in the trail you blaze for others? Is it in the stats, or in the silence that falls after your last round when the crowd realizes the magic is gone? If Seve were a footballer, he would be Messi, not for stats or trophies, but for how he made people feel. Both had rare, untouchable talent, a sixth sense others couldn't learn. Messi weaves through defenders like the ball is glued to his feet. Seve found greens from impossible spots and pulled off shots physics hadn't approved yet. They weren't following playbooks, they were the playbook. Messi plays quietly, small and humble. Seve roared with charisma and chaos. Messi kills softly while Seve lifts you. Messi carried a nation, Seve carried a continent, turning Europe into a Ryder Cup powerhouse with passion as his weapon. Critics called Seve erratic, Messi is clinical. One plays with fire, the other with ice. So which is greater, the flawless brilliance of Messi or the wild magic of Seve? Maybe they're just two sides of the same coin. Behind the swagger, there was silence. Seve Ballesteros walked like a matador, proud, confident, and impossible to ignore. But when the crowds faded and the lights dimmed, the real Seve wasn't always smiling. Fame had a price and he paid it, quietly, painfully, and often alone. He was married once to Carmen Botín, the daughter of a powerful Spanish banker. The photos looked like a fairy tale, golf's prince with a queen on his arm. But behind closed doors, the pressure of celebrity, constant travel, and Seve's stubborn independence tore at the seams. They divorced in 2004. Friends said Seve was never quite the same. He gave everything to golf, one close confidant said, and in the end, golf took everything back. There were rumors, affairs, feuds with management. He could be charming one minute and impossible the next. Even his own Ryder Cup teammates sometimes clashed with him. They respected him, feared him even, but Seve didn't do diplomacy. He led with passion, and sometimes that fire burned too hot. One teammate once said, "Playing with Seve was like playing with a hurricane. brilliant and completely unpredictable. Then came the worst news of all. In 2008, Seve collapsed at Madrid's Barajas airport. A diagnosis followed: brain cancer, aggressive, ruthless. Like the opponents he used to slay with a smile, he faced it like he played golf, fighting from impossible lies, never giving up, always looking for a shot that wasn't supposed to be there. He went through surgeries, chemotherapy, and radiation. The hair disappeared, the strength faded, but the soul never left. And just like that, the showman who once lit up global galleries became something else. A father trying to heal, a man facing mortality, a soul learning to say goodbye.
The funeral of golfing great Seve Ballesteros has taken place at the Church of San Pedro in his home village of Pedreña in northern Spain.
Seve passed away in 2011 at just 54, but he was never forgotten, not for the majors, not for the shot making, but for the feeling he left behind. He was a hurricane who taught us how to smile through the storm. He was fire in a sport of silence, and he was human, heartbreakingly, beautifully human. So in a world obsessed with records, trophies, and stats, what if the greatest thing a legend can leave behind is how they made us feel? The swing was priceless, but everything else had a price. Seve Ballesteros didn't just change golf, he marketed it. The moment he lifted that claret jug in '79, sponsors saw more than talent. They saw charisma, electricity, and global appeal. Suddenly, brands that had barely touched golf were knocking on his door. Lacoste, Rolex, Peugeot, and later even Nike flirted with the idea of the swashbuckling Spaniard as their European face. Seve wasn't just endorsing products, he was building an empire. By the mid-'80s, he was earning millions. Private jets, five-star hotels, and business class to Tokyo and back, all funded by a swing that looked like it came from another universe. But Seve wanted more than money. He wanted control. He didn't just lend his name to companies, he started his own. A golf course design firm, a media company, even a clothing line. In his mind, this was not greed. It was about protecting his legacy, securing his future, and doing it his way. And yet, not all stories age like fine Rioja. By the late 90s, lawsuits began to surface. Business partners accused Seve of breach of contract. He sued them back. He lost millions on failed ventures. A Spanish newspaper once claimed his empire was built on charisma and chaos. The press, once enchanted by his brilliance, now hounded him over unpaid debts, tax disputes, and failed golf projects in remote corners of the world. Even fans began to whisper, was the passion still for the game or just the gold? The truth is murkier than any headline. Seve had grown up poor, dirt poor. His first clubs were cut-down tools. His first golf balls were found in bushes. So maybe, just maybe, he chased wealth not out of greed but fear. Fear of going back. Fear of being forgotten. Fear that his legacy would die the moment his swing faded. Because that was Seve, he did not play safe. Not on the course, not in business, not in life. So when greatness starts chasing profit, does it strengthen the legacy or risk losing the soul that built it in the first place? The 18th hole at Royal Birkdale in 1976 was not just a shot. Seve Ballesteros introduced himself to the world by playing golf fearlessly and being full of spirit, which would transform the sport. Yet now, looking at the modern era, how would Seve fare against Tiger Woods, Rory McIlroy, or Phil Mickelson? With today's technology, medical care, and global spotlight, could he have avoided the injuries that cut his prime short? Or would the pressure of the modern game have tamed the rebellious spirit that made him so unforgettable?